Hi, everybody. My name is Joe Howland. I am the Chief Information Security Officer for VC3. Uh, as you probably are aware, VC3 is a managed services provider that supports the IT needs of municipalities, really municipalities across the country. And lately, we've tried to do a lot of focus on cybersecurity. We're really trying to help educate our clients about the needs, the necessity of cybersecurity, why it's important, and really what the solutions are that are needed to protect your municipality. So today, I really want to talk to you about some options that are available to you as a municipality so that you can understand what your cybersecurity posture is and really get clarity on what you need to do to move forward to increase the strength of your security measures. So why is cybersecurity important? Well, that first bullet right there, that on the left side of this slide, $6 trillion in cyber crime cost by 2021. So by the end of this year, $6 trillion will have been spent reacting to, responding to cyber crime. I mean, that is just an astonishing number. And you see it daily, right? We see it in the news every single day. We see corporations being breached, we see municipalities being breached, we see other government agencies being breached. So it's common, it's commonplace, and unfortunately it is here to stay. So what can we do to minimize that and minimize our risk as an organization? We want our residents to have confidence that we're doing the right thing. Not only our residents, but the businesses in our community as well. Right? We want them to know that their information, anything that they have entrusted us with, is being protected. 3 billion PII records stolen last year. That is all information that is now up for sale. Right? I get into an organization, I steal that personally identifiable information. Now I get on the dark web and I sell it for profit. So that trade is going to continue. And then finally, we've seen a real rise in attacks directly against our employees. Lots of attacks targeting our payroll systems and trying to redirect direct deposits to malicious accounts, and really not even being aware that it has occurred until your employee calls you and says, hey, why didn't I get paid this week? Or why didn't I get paid? That's a problem, right? We want our employees to have confidence that they're going to get paid on a regular basis and that we're doing our jobs to protect them as well. So we want to protect our financial liability, we want to protect our residents, and we want to protect our employees. These are all important to us. So why does testing matter? Well, the bad guys in the past year, the increase in the number of attacks has grown 350% over the prior year. Now, every year that number goes up. Every year there are more attacks. This year it is particularly alarming because of the combination of COVID and the fact that many organizations sent their employees home. The attackers really decided they were going to take advantage of that, and they were going to go after those home machines that exist outside of these carefully constructed protective security nets that we put in place for our organizations. So that has contributed dramatically to that rise. And we're just seeing an ever-evolving sophistication of attacks. The attacks are more targeted, they're more sophisticated, they're harder to detect, they're more damaging when they do occur. We're seeing attackers get into environments, and instead of just immediately kicking off that ransomware, they stay there. They try to learn your environment. They look for information that they want to capture before they start the ransomware. They try to cripple your backups. They try to cripple your antivirus. And then when all is said and done, they will launch that ransomware attack and let you know that they're there. So those attacks are getting more and more sophisticated. On the other side, I think there's a real lack of clarity of what we need to do about it, right? We don't know as organizations, this changes so fast, it's so complex. Our city managers, our city leaders are not security experts. They're not even IT experts, and they can't possibly understand all of the nuances of cybersecurity and what they need to do to protect the city. So let organizations like VC3 and many others out there help you. But really, we want leaders to understand what their options are, what the path forward is. How do I move forward? How do I move my organization forward in a way that is going to keep it secure and make it more secure into the future? That is our goal. So when we're done with this, I want you to understand the value of testing cybersecurity, right? It's almost like a financial audit. As municipalities, we have a financial audit once a year. We have auditors come in, they look at our books, they make sure everything is on the up and up and that we're doing everything the right way. Same thing needs to happen with the cybersecurity. We need to have somebody working with us and really looking at our security posture and make sure it's on track, it's staying tight, it's that our environments are remaining secure. We're going to talk about how to pick the right test for your organization, and we'll talk about what that means. And then we're going to talk about, once that test is complete, what do you need to do? All right, so what are our testing options? Well, first of all, I'm going to talk about the security gap analysis. Sometimes it's called a security audit. Now, this is really having somebody come in and look through your environment in detail and look at what all you're doing around security, looking at antivirus, looking at patching, looking at your policies. It's not just about technology, looking at how you have secured your environment, how those processes are working, and how effective they are at keeping you secure. Another option is something called a vulnerability scan. A vulnerability scan is simply going to scan your environment and tell you where you have weaknesses. I have these particular ports open in my firewall that are exposing services to the internet that may be vulnerable. I have these workstations or these servers in my environment that are missing these patches or have these configurations that make them vulnerable. Vulnerability scans are much less comprehensive than a gap analysis because it's simply a scan, right? It's not going to look at your processes and your procedures, which a gap analysis will take into account. And then finally, we have penetration tests. Penetration tests are really kind of the Cadillac of security testing. A penetration test is somebody's going to come to your environment. They're going to run that vulnerability scan. They're going to look at the services that you are offering. And then they are going to see, okay, I don't just see that there's a vulnerability here. Can I actually exploit it? Can I actually get into that system? Can I break my way in? If I am trying to break my way in, am I going to be detected? Is an alarm going to go off and let you know that I'm there trying to get in? So these are really three different types of tests, and I encourage you to consider all three of them, and we'll talk about kind of where you want to be a little bit later in the presentation. All right. So what are we going to do in a security gap analysis? Because that's where I'm going to focus most of my time today, that audit. You know, the audit is not just looking at the technologies you have in place. We're also going to look at the people. We're going to look at the processes you have. We're going to look at the policies you have in place. We're going to look at your cyber liability insurance and see, are you carrying enough to protect the liability of your organization? And we're going to compare it against this NIST, National Institute of Standards and Technology framework, that kind of defines what a comprehensive security policy looks like and what a comprehensive security framework looks like. Again, we're not just going to look at the technology, we're going to look at all parts of this little pie over here. If you want more on the NIST framework, please go to our website. We can point you to some resources that will help clarify what these different pillars of NIST are. But just be confident that this is kind of one of the best practices out there for cybersecurity, and we're going to look at your environment and audit it against those best practices. All right, so what are the components of a good audit? Well, first of all, I have seen organizations come to us and they've just handed us a big report, and they've paid somebody, or somebody has come to them and said, we're going to do a free assessment, and they run a tool and it just gives them a list of vulnerabilities. Well, that doesn't provide a lot of value. Okay, I have a ton of stuff out here that I know I need to go fix if I know how to fix it, but I don't know why it broke in the first place. I don't know what processes I need to have in place to keep myself from getting back to that state again after I fix these things, right? I've got to have more than just a list of weaknesses. And to do that, we've got to look at your tools and your software as well, right? We can't just look at, here's a workstation, here's a server, here's a firewall, here's how it's vulnerable. We've got to look at the tools you're using to keep those things up to date, to keep them secure. That helps us evaluate and say, okay, this is where you're really strong, so now you don't have to worry about this area so much, but over here in this area, maybe it's software patching, you're weak. Here are the things you need to do to stay on top of this. So it brings context to those vulnerabilities. And then the other mistake I hear people make is they go get an IT audit and they expect it to be security focused. Security is really a unique animal. And unless you are engaging somebody specifically in a security audit, you are not going to get the same results. Doesn't mean that a general IT audit is not going to touch on components of security. It certainly will. And and I'm not saying there isn't value in a general IT audit, but don't expect a general IT audit to answer all of your security questions. So what do we want instead? Well, first of all, we want a process that's going to end with a meeting, right? I'm not just going to get a list of vulnerabilities. I'm going to get somebody who's going to sit down with me and talk through the results and make sure I understand them, right? We want a process that's going to examine how we are working, examine our processes, look at what we are doing as an organization to keep ourselves safe, and really be able to break those things down and have conversations with you about where you're strong, where you're weak, and why you need to change things. And again, it needs to be focused on security because security is unique. All right, so then what happens after the audit is done? Well, hopefully, if I've engaged in a high quality audit, I'm going to have a prioritized list of action items. I'm going to have a very clear, very understandable list of these are the things you need to go do. And again, that's not just going to be you need to go patch your servers or you need to go patch your workstations. That list should include things like you need to implement a computer use policy if you don't have one. You need cyber liability insurance. You don't just need to patch your servers. You don't just need to go apply these patches that are missing. Here is a system you need that will help you patch and stay patched into the future. So you want that to be very clear and understandable. Understanding where your strengths and your weaknesses are. A good security audit isn't just going to come in and hand you a list of vulnerabilities. Like I said, a good security audit should also be highlighting what you're doing well. Your firewall is buttoned down tight. Nobody can get in through your firewall. Okay, so now we know that we need to focus on the inside of our network and some of our processes and procedures. Right, so having that understanding of where you're good, now you're not going to spin your wheels and spend time and energy and resources fixing things that don't need to be fixed. You're going to spend those resources in the right areas. You've got to have the ability to share the findings with whoever it is that supports your IT, whether that's VC3, whether that's another MSP, or whether that's your own internal IT team, right? They've got to have a clear understanding of what actions need to be taken to increase your resiliency. And truthfully, your non-technical leaders should have confidence that they've got a strategy moving forward. They should walk out of that audit and out of that meeting knowing these are the things I need to do. These are the areas of focus. If I do these things, I am elevating the cybersecurity posture of my municipality, and we are going to be better for it. So back to these options of the gap analysis, the vulnerability scan, and the penetration test. So you don't know what you need. I'm going to ask you these simple questions to kind of guide you through that choice. First of all, if you have no idea what your cybersecurity posture is, if you don't have any processes defined, you don't really know what tools you're using, you don't know where you need to be strong, what needs to be looked at, what's strong, what's weak, I really recommend that security gap analysis. That's going to be that top-down view that's going to give you a holistic picture of what you are doing as your organization from a cybersecurity perspective. Now, if you're an organization that thinks, you know what, we've done that, we've taken action, we've put processes and policies in place, we've got antivirus in place, we've got patching, we've got software and systems and services, and we think they're running well. We've looked at our firewalls, we've had those analyzed, we've plugged the holes, right? Then run a vulnerability scan. That vulnerability scan is going to tell you if you are as strong as you think you are. It's a little less expensive than probably a gap analysis because it's a little bit simpler, but it's not going to look at those processes and procedures, so you got to know that you have those in place already. And then finally, if you feel like, you know what, we're killing it, we've done the security audit, we've implemented the processes, we've got the tools in place, we're monitoring our environment, we know when something happens, we've got a great plan here, then engage an organization to do a pen test. And that penetration test, again, takes it to the next level by having an actual security engineer test those defenses. It's not just, I'm looking at your wireless and determining whether it's got some weaknesses or not. No, it's, I am going to test your wireless to see if I can break through to get to your production network. I am going to test your firewall. I'm going to get on your network and act like an attacker who has convinced a user to click on a bad link, and I'm going to see what I can do as that attacker. have that test done, internal and external, and that will really give you a good gauge of how your defenses are. But if you don't think you've got the defenses in place, if you don't know whether you've got the defenses, roll all the way back to that first option up here, do that security audit. I hope that's helpful. I hope that gives you some guidance. Please email betterit@vc3.com if you've got questions, or feel free to head over to vc3.com and our blog and check that out. There's a lot of information around security out there as well. Thank you all very much. I hope you are staying secure and running secure, and I hope VC3 can help you improve that. Thanks a lot.